Lorne Armstrong was one of the many men caught on datelines to catch a predator. When confronted by Chris Hansen, he muttered that infamous word. This resulted in Lorne becoming the unwilling messiah of an ironic internet cult, the Church of Cawd. Lorne would go on to sue NBC for $80 million, write a kidnap fantasy novel, and get catfished at least half a dozen times by trolls pretending to be his girlfriends.
Baby. Mwah.
In this video, we're diving into the full timeline, from the sting operation to the lawsuits, the prison meltdowns, and the catfishing sagas. This is the story of the son of Cawd, Lorne Armstrong.
He's 37-year-old Lorne Armstrong, a construction worker.
In 2007, Lorne Armstrong was at a low point in life. Unable to hold a job and sleeping on the floor of a rundown, practically unfurnished apartment, things were looking pretty grim for the 36-year-old. As a result, Lorne would turn to online Yahoo chat rooms to occupy himself. One day, a user named Kayla_Princess94 appeared on his screen. Curious, Lorne would send the first message. "Hi, ASL please." Asking for her age, sex, and location, Kayla Princess 94 would respond, 13, female, Kentucky. As suggested by their username, Kayla Princess 94 would state she was only 13 years old. In light of this information, Lorne would respond with the following: "Wow, you're just a young one, huh?" Lorne would then say, "A little cutie too. If nobody will talk to you, sweetheart, you can talk to me. I'm a good guy. I have 2 nieces your age." Lorne would continue to make inappropriate comments about how cute he thought the 13-year-old girl was. These comments would escalate quickly. Eventually, Lorne would be engaging in bizarre and graphic roleplay with the child, referring to her genitals as Mrs. Vagina and his own as Mr. Penis. He would also exhibit grooming behavior, educating Kayla about sexual acts, expressing love for her innocence, and even instructing her to perform sexual, quote, experiments on herself.
Using the screen name Lorne A20014, he tells her how to masturbate.
He becomes intensely possessive and jealous. Lorne laments that Kayla has other boys at her school taking a liking to her. At one point, Lorne even discusses plans to kidnap the girl from her Kentucky home and take her to Tennessee. This extensive, sexually explicit chatlog would span 401 pages.
He's been chatting with a girl posing as a 13-year-old for more than a month. It's one of the longest chat logs we've ever seen.
Lorne would also chat with Kayla on the phone, in which you can really hear how young Kayla is.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
You sound so sweet.
Thank you. I got a stupid question.
Huh?
How do you pronounce your name?
Lorne.
Well, okay. I'm sorry.
Well, don't be sorry. You were so sweet.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
Are you nervous about talking to me?
Yeah.
You don't have to be.
Okay.
One of the most memorable instances from these phone calls is hearing Lorne sing his own rendition of I Loved Her First by the band Heartland.
Let me see. What can I sing to you? Okay, I got one.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Look at the two of you dancing that way, lost in the moment, in each other's face. So much in love, you're alone in this place, like there's nobody else in the world. I was enough for her, not not long ago. I was her number one, she told me so, and she still means the world to me, just so you know. So be careful when you hold my girl. Time changes everything, life must go on, and I'm not gonna stand in your way. I loved her first, I held her first, and a place in my heart will always be hers. From the first breath she breathed, when she first smiled at me, I knew the love of a father runs deep. And I prayed that she'd find you someday, but it's still hard to give her away. I loved her first.
Wow.
Wow.
You sound really good.
You want to come to my concerts?
Of course I do.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to marry you, so you'll be there anyway.
Lorne would also expose himself naked on camera for Kayla, showing his naked body in his unfurnished, shitty apartment.
And then asks her if she wants to see him naked. She agrees, and he turns on his webcam. He wants her to look at his penis.
Would you like to see it up close so you can get a better look at it?
Oh my gosh. I guess, if you want to show me.
Besides all this chat here, and we'll go through that in a minute, you also sent a whole bunch of pictures. Now, why would you think that's appropriate?
It's not.
It's not.
While also, the video calls would reveal that he seemingly wore the same clothes every day. This outfit would include his signature faded blue t-shirt, shorts, and Boston Red Sox hat. Lorne would wear this hat every single moment of the day, even at night, for reasons that should be obvious.
He's taken to the local police station.
Eventually, a meeting is set between Lorne and Kayla. The date is set for October 18th, 2007, Lorne's 37th birthday. What a lucky guy.
Turns out today's his birthday.
Packing the car with condoms and a cheap bracelet intended as a gift for Kayla, Lorne would jump in his car and drive interstate from Nashville, Tennessee to Kayla's house in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
He was so excited to be here. And he came walking in very proud, very excited.
Arriving at her home, Lorne would be greeted by a young Kayla, who would welcome him inside. At this moment, Lorne is ecstatic. You can see how giddy he is, even greeting Kayla with a big, fat
Girl.
Kayla invites Lorne to sit down on the massage chairs. They vibrate when you press the buttons.
I thought you had blonde hair.
Do you like it? I dyed it by myself.
I think it's pretty.
Thank you.
It's very pretty.
Then, Lorne expresses that he thought Kayla had blonde hair. Instead of having any suspicion, Lorne concludes that he thinks it's pretty. Very pretty. The exchange continues. Lorne admits that he brought condoms, but they were out in his truck, to which Kayla responds,
Did you bring any condoms?
Yes, I did.
Where are they?
Out in the truck.
Well, what good are they going to do in the truck if we're in here?
Well, yell at me, why don't you? I haven't had a kiss yet.
Oh, okay. Well, then what did you want to do?
Well, I want a kiss first.
And then what?
Can I have a kiss first?
Well, let's talk first. We just got here.
The two build rapport. It's all coming together. Lorne's little princess is right in front of him. That's like cool, Lorne says, in an attempt to sound like a prepubescent girl. But then...
You gonna have a seat too?
I like to sit on the edge of chairs.
Do you?
I like to sit on the edge of chairs. This would be the last thing Kayla would ever say to Lorne. Suddenly, a strange man would enter the room, proclaiming that Lorne seems pretty comfortable there.
She's pretty comfortable there.
Hi, sir.
How are you?
All right, how are you doing?
What's happening?
Not too much?
Not too much.
Despite bringing condoms and having an explicit 400-page chat log with the girl about his plans to kidnap and assault her, Lorne would claim he wasn't really going to do anything.
You're a pretty prolific chatter there. Want to explain yourself?
Not really. I never really was going to do anything.
You weren't really going to do anything.
No.
To make things worse, Lorne is confronted with images of himself naked from when he video chatted with Kayla back in his unfurnished apartment.
Besides all this chat here, and we'll go through that in a minute, you also sent a whole bunch of pictures. Now, why would you think that's appropriate?
It's not.
It's not.
At this point, you were probably wondering what should happen to Lorne, to which he gives a profound response.
What do you think ought to happen to you?
I think I should go to counseling to get off the internet. I can do some things I can't do that. Oh my God.
I think I should go to counseling to get off the internet. I gotta do something that I can't do for that, oh Cawd. Throughout this confrontation, you can see Lorne's stress levels visibly escalate. When he was first confronted, you can see he was smiling nervously. Now, he is literally crying. Lorne would be confused. Who is this man? At first, Lorne may have believed it was Kayla's father, in which case maybe he could just apologize and get out of there. However, the man isn't dressed or acting like a girl's dad. What is going on? Lorne would be trying to figure out how screwed he really is. Then, the man stands up. His name is Chris Hansen, and he delivers onto Lorne the final blow, to which Lorne cries out one word.
Well, there's something I gotta tell you. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on Now, you're free to walk out of this house right now. But if there's anything else you want to say, now would be the time to say it. We're doing a story on
He has nothing further to say, and tries to make a quick exit, apparently not knowing what's in store for him outside.
Sheriff's office, down! Get down! On the ground!
Hands on your back.
Put your hands on your back!
After his crucifixion by Chris Hansen of Dateline, Lorne is delivered into the arms of the police, as is custom on the show. Throughout his booking process, he is crying the whole time. Lorne would speak to detectives briefly, making incriminating statements like, "How much is it going to hurt me if I do that?" when being asked for his consent for the police to search his truck. Realizing that these are not the words of an innocent person, he would shortly ask for an attorney.
Would you be willing to give us consent to go to your truck and look in that and get to recover the condoms and do you have any other contraband in there, a weapon, anything else? No. Does that sound reasonable that you would give us a consent to get those?
How much is it gonna hurt me when I do that?
Lorne Armstrong had been captured in a sting, and all of it, including Armstrong's arrest, is captured on camera and later aired on Dateline NBC's To Catch a Predator's final episode on December 28th of 2007. Instead of talking to a real 13-year-old girl named Kayla, Lorne was talking to a decoy set up by the vigilante group Perverted Justice. Armstrong's segment would make him one of the most notorious figures in To Catch a Predator. The reason Lorne would become so famous could potentially be due to the length of the chatlog, his awkward greeting of the decoy, the fact he wouldn't stop crying. But really, Lorne would become so revered due to the one word that he uttered during his televised crucifixion.
We're doing a story on
Seeing Lorne cross state lines from Tennessee to Kentucky, Lorne would be facing both state and federal charges. Lorne would later accept a plea deal and plead guilty in a Kentucky court to attempted unlawful transaction with a minor in the first degree, a Class C felony. The reason Lorne was offered a plea deal was because the police recovered a camera from his truck. In exchange for pleading guilty, Lorne would not be charged with attempting to produce child pornography, which carried a 20-year sentence. Lorne would not make bail and was sentenced to 7 years in prison, with the state and federal sentences to run concurrently. In practice, he served 5 years behind bars, and the remainder of the term was suspended. So Lorne's release date would end up being in 2012. The court further imposes lifetime probation, or supervised release, and requires Lorne to register as a sex offender for life. In the coming years, Lorne would attempt many legal maneuvers to challenge or reduce his sentence, which we will get to later in the video. I'm going to talk now about some of the specifics of Lorne's chat log. This part of the video is going to be particularly heinous, so it's worth using the chapters feature to skip this part if you don't want to hear some of Lorne's sick fantasies he had towards an underage child. Similar to my video on Isaac Holmes, of which one of the top comments is "the fetishes chapter won't stop," I apologize if you are driving and are unable to skip forward at this point. There are many interesting details about Lorne's chat log and appearance on To Catch a Predator. For example, when predators on the show requested photographs or proof that they were really talking to a child, it was custom for the perverted justice decoy to send photos of NBC staffers of themselves when they were children. In Lorne's case, he would actually receive photos on 2 occasions. In each case, Lorne would view an image of a different child, and there is actually very little resemblance between them. Things get even more strange when you consider that the decoy at the Sting house was yet a third different person, Casey Moreau, a 19-year-old at the time, who of course looks even less like the 2 children Lorne had already seen. Nonetheless, Lorne never showed any signs of suspicion, despite seeing 3 different girls throughout his conversations with Kayla. This goes to show the level of desperation and gullibility we will see Lorne exhibit throughout this video, especially during the catfishing sagas that we will discuss later on. Another trait of Lorne's that will come up time and time again is his jealousy. In the case of Lorne's chat log with Kayla, this was perhaps most evidenced by Lorne's reaction to a fictional underage boy named Derek. At one point in the chat log, Kayla would state that she was going to a party. Obviously not like a real party, but the type that 13-year-olds would go to. Kayla would tell Lorne about a boy named Derek that was going to be there, to which Lorne would immediately respond with jealousy, stating that if she even talks to Derek, she will lose him. As one Reddit user put it, "What a freak, he's telling an underage girl not to hang out with an underage boy because he feels threatened by him." Keep in mind, Lorne is almost 40 at this point. There is another time when he tells Kayla not to be around Derek, seemingly forgetting that both of these people are 13-year-old children who go to school and have to attend class together. Lorne's jealous and controlling nature would be made clear at another point in the chat log, in which Kayla tells him that her parents are doctors. Lorne responds to this by telling Kayla that her mother can deliver their baby, but that her father will have to wait outside because Lorne wants to be the only man to have seen her vagina. There is even a point in the chat where Kayla starts talking about a BMW, to which Lorne angrily responds that she needs to stay focused on talking about him. He specifically says, "A BMW doesn't have a penis, your boyfriend does." So Lorne's jealousy would extend to inanimate objects, and it is worth bringing up here that Lorne is obsessed with his penis. He mentions the word penis 270 times in the chat. As a part of Lorne's grooming process, he would constantly be exposing his genitals to the decoy on an extremely regular basis. It comes across as ritualistic. One argument that often comes up in the To Catch a Predator community is if certain predators actually had a preference for children, or if they were just desperate and showed up in spite of the age of the decoy. In Lorne's case, there is a lot of evidence that he did indeed have a preference for children. We mentioned the Mr. and Mrs. lines from the chat log before. He routinely uses childish language to refer to adult and graphic subjects, like telling Kayla she's going to make the white stuff come out. There is one particularly disgusting part where Lorne is trying to teach Kayla about oral sex, in which he refers to the act as being like sucking a lollipop. At another point, Lorne is interested in Kayla's pubic hair, and if she has enough to count yet. During his confrontation with Chris, Lorne also mentioned that he had nieces.
You have kids?
Today. No, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've got nieces, though,
Nieces.
that I think the world of.
Yeah, you talk about your nieces in the chat here. And you talk about how you like to spoil the nieces and how you would like to spoil this 13-year-old girl like you spoil your nieces.
Yeah.
Is this the way you spoil young women?
No.
In the chat log, Lorne sexualizes them by telling Kayla about how they would ask him for permission to wear scanty clothing and he would take pleasure out of it and approve. And in general, Lorne just didn't want a sexual relationship. He had a particular interest in grooming a child. He takes a sick pleasure in explaining sexual acts to who he believes is just a little girl. Lorne had some level of awareness that the chats could be retrieved if he were to get in trouble. So in a genius move, he attempted to stage a breakup with Kayla to create plausible deniability. He also asks her to, quote, delete her archives, but for some reason, he tells her to do this in the very chat log that he tries to stage a breakup in. This was a 200 IQ move on Lorne's part, but of course it seemingly didn't occur to him that he was talking to a grown adult the whole time, and everything he told them, including the phone calls, had been recorded and saved.
Hi, honey.
Hey.
I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, this is what I gotta tell you really quick, okay?
Okay.
Okay, on Wednesday night, we have to pretend like we're breaking up.
Okay.
We have to do that on Yahoo.
Okay.
Okay? Then we'll go on, what is it? The MySpace I am. And we'll talk on there. Okay?
Okay.
Then Thursday night, don't even get on the computer to get me. Just call me, okay?
Okay.
Your parents won't be home. Right?
Right.
So just call me Thursday night.
Okay.
If they don't leave yet, though, if they don't leave yet, then get on, oh, jeez, I can't remember the name of it. MySpace? Yeah. If they don't leave Thursday, then get on MySpace and leave me a message on that so I'll know.
Okay.
Then we'll talk on there again.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Remember all that, okay?
I will, I promise.
Okay. Are you, huh?
I can't stay home long since they're in the living room watching TV.
Yeah, I know. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Are you anxious?
Yes. I'm glad you're coming.
Are you anxious to touch my penis? Didn't expect me to ask you that over the phone, did ya?
No, I didn't.
Are you?
I guess so.
Why don't you just say yes like you do online?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you go.
Okay, hurry and sneak your phone back out there so they don't know anything, okay?
Okay.
Oh,
bye.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Hey,
what?
Call Jessie and talk to her for a few minutes. That way my number isn't the last number that was dialed.
Okay.
Okay?
I can do that.
Okay. I'll be right here in front of the computer.
Okay.
Okay, I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Naturally, because Lorne got caught, he would end up spending 5 years in prison, a time of Lorne's life that we will cover now. It was well known that Lorne kept a prison journal, and in 2023, the journal's full transcript would be uploaded to the TCAP Temple forums by a user named Not Kayla. Throughout the journal, Lorne refuses to take responsibility for his crimes and blames NBC and authorities talking him into committing the crime. Lorne wrote, quote, "The authorities had to talk me into doing the crime I did, and they only did that so they could make a television show. If I would have been in my right frame of mind, they never would have been able to talk me into doing this disgusting crime." He would also go on to write, "Perverted justice kept me talking. They played on that and got me to talk sexual. They used guilt trips and anything else they could." As a convicted sex offender and one whose arrest was aired on national TV, Lorne faced hostility from other inmates. According to people in his hometown, he was so harassed after the other inmates found out what he was in for that officials eventually placed him in solitary confinement for his own protection. Lorne spent most of his sentence in protective custody alongside other sex offenders. Lorne would mention these other inmates convicted of sex crimes in his prison journal. Additionally, when Lorne first arrived in prison, he apparently cried so much that other inmates threatened to beat him up. Lorne writes in his journal, quote, "They told me if I didn't stop crying, they were going to kick my ass," end quote. Keep in mind, this is before the other inmates found out that he was a sex predator. That being said, Lorne claimed that he was like the wise character in the prison that people came to for advice. He wrote in his journal, quote, "Nate came in to talk to me one day. He told me that out of everyone in the cell, I seemed to be the one that was the most honest and trustworthy. That made me feel good because that is the type of person I've always tried to be," end quote.
Are you anxious to touch my penis?
Another prison venture of Lorne's was writing a novel. The story, titled Taken Abroad, centers on a war veteran whose PTSD drives him to murder women. Lorne's prison journal from this period even included hand-drawn illustrations, hinting at his efforts to bring the story to life. By 2014, Lorne had finished writing Taken Abroad and prepared it for publication. A Goodreads entry listed the paperback as 175 pages, and by 2015, Taken Abroad was officially published via Books A Million self-publishing service. The synopsis describes protagonist Aaron returning from the Iraq War with trauma, struggling with violent nightmares, and ultimately committing a series of murders before justice is served in a tragic twist. The book would see very limited sales or readership. Most of the reviews online are just people quoting Lorne's Chatlog. In 2017, Lorne would actually file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which we will explore in more detail later in the video. The public records of Lorne's bankruptcy would shed light on Taken Abroad's commercial failure. In his bankruptcy papers, he reports that he, quote, "wrote a book Taken Abroad, but earned only $15 total from it, less than the cost he paid to publish it." Putting Lorne's book aside, throughout his time in prison, Lorne was far more occupied with filing frivolous lawsuits, which we will get into now. While incarcerated, Lorne would attempt many times to escape his sentence. In every case, his lawsuits, or LOL suits, would be thrown out. In October of 2009, Lorne filed a pro se motion in Kentucky. He alleged that his public defender was ineffective, claiming, among other things, that his lawyer should have pursued an entrapment defense, that he failed to explain the plea deal's consequences, and that he should have used a, quote, "media tag-along defense." This term, media tag-along defense, is not a legal term or recognized defense strategy and is something that Lorne just made up. Basically, Lorne is butthurt about NBC recording him getting owned by Chris.
We're doing a story on Cawd.
And will bring it up constantly in his future appeals and legal motions. We are going to see Lorne continue to insist that Dateline's involvement makes him somehow not guilty of attempted unlawful transaction with a minor. Nonetheless, the court noted Lorne's arguments were rambling and conclusory, and sure enough, Lorne's motion was denied in August of 2011. Lorne would appeal the court's decision and basically repeat many of the same absurd claims in his appeal. Lorne continued to basically blame his lawyer for not explaining the consequences of pleading guilty and exploring an entrapment defense. He also tried to introduce new evidence, but because he hadn't included this material in the original motion, the appeals court refused to consider it. In April of 2011, Lorne would file one of his most hilarious lawsuits against NBC. Lorne would effectively try to sue NBC for $80 million. In the suit, Lorne would claim that he was, quote, lured into the Sting House. He would literally write that Kayla used her, quote, female powers on him. He would also claim that the decoy knew that Lorne was vulnerable, and that NBC essentially took advantage of this in order to profit off their TV show. Lorne would write verbatim, "NBC lured me in for the sole purpose of making money," misspelling the word soul, as in the soul in religion. Lorne would argue that NBC committed all 4 privacy torts. 1, that NBC used his name likeness without consent and profited off his name. 2, that NBC intruded upon his solitude via the decoy. 3, publicly disclosed private facts through airing his arrest and chat logs. And 4, that NBC placed him in a false light before the public. Lorne further claimed NBC's broadcast caused him deep anguish and suffering, alleging, quote, "A person can only handle so much ignorance and exposure and unwanted plus unneeded publicity," end quote. NBC would file a motion to dismiss, and unfortunately, Lorne's LOL suit would be thrown out. The court found every single one of Lorne's claims either time-barred, legally incoherent, or without factual basis. When it came to NBC filming Lorne's arrest, the court stated, quote, "There can be no invasion of privacy where the plaintiff is engaging in conduct in a public space," end quote. The court ruled that Lorne had no reasonable expectation of privacy while engaging in sexual chats in a public chat room. The court further stated, quote, "Availing oneself to a public chat room is no different than standing on a street corner and engaging in conversation with passersby," end quote. When it came to NBC using his name or likeness for commercial purposes, the court said, quote, "The value of the plaintiff's name is not appropriated by mere mention of it," and, quote, "Publishing the fact that someone has committed a crime is not a privacy violation," end quote. In response to Lorne's emotional distress, the court stated that emotional distress must be inflicted intentionally to be compensated, and that none of Lorne's mental emotional damages were caused by physical injury. So Lorne's incoherent LOL suit full of spelling errors and bad English was dismissed. However, in 2012, Lorne would file a pro se response in opposition to NBC's motion. In it, Lorne would just reiterate the same claims, only to have them thrown out again by the district court. After having his LOL suit dismissed, Lorne would file yet another appeal, this time to the US Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. So that is 2 attempts to bring his LOL suit back to life in 2 years, and the Court of Appeals of the 6th Circuit would affirm the decision of the lower court, and by 2013, the $80 million LOL suit would finally die, and Lorne wouldn't see a dime of the money that he was asking for. 1 month later, in May, Lorne filed a motion for shock probation for his state sentence. This would be granted by the judge, and Lorne would have his state sentence cut short. However, having also been convicted and sentenced on federal charges, Lorne would be transferred to a federal prison to serve out the rest of his sentence. Lorne would also file a petition to have his time served in state custody, credited towards his federal sentence. The court would find this claim moot, and by the time the decision was made, Lorne was already released from prison, so it was redundant anyway. So in 2012, Lorne would be released from prison and made to register as a sex offender. Registering as a sex offender means a lot of Lorne's details are available to the public, such as his place of work, the town he lives in, and a fresh mugshot every year in case he tries to rebrand his image. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. If you really enjoyed it, you can support me on Patreon or go check out my Substack. Now, back to the video. Throughout this time, an internet community would be developing. By the mid-2010s, there would be a community online calling themselves Lornographers. This community would ironically venerate Lorne as a god. They would talk about the sting on To Catch a Predator as Lorne's crucifixion, and on this rock, they would build the Church of Cawd. The Church of Cawd's main holy text would be the Holy Lornography, the 407-page month-long chatlog that at the time was available on the Perverted Justice website. Perhaps the most prominent Lornographer in the Church of Cawd would be a channel named Based Shaman, who would record a full-length audiobook of the Lornography. The Church of Cawd would consist of many content creators who usually made reaction videos to various Predator segments on To Catch a Predator, as well as reviewing the interrogation footage and phone calls with the decoys. Some of these channels included Joey's Teacap, The Cappening, Mike Pence, Ember Inferno, Sam Pendleton, and Nathaniel Trevor. Channels like the aforementioned Bass Shaman would also create skits and music parodies of Lorne Armstrong.
Green Squad, still in this bitch. Let's get dusty. 9K, let's get 10 shade. 9K, let's get 10 shade.
This community would cover all of the predators featured on To Catch a Predator, reviewing their appearances on the show, documenting their whereabouts and movements, but there was always a special emphasis on Lorne.
Count those heads down there, even if it takes all night. Count.
Throughout the years, many prominent members of the Church of Cawd would spark controversies, often harassing, doxing, or predating on other members of the community. I will be covering some of these controversies throughout this video. One of the earliest discoveries that the Church of Cawd made is that shortly before his appearance on To Catch a Predator, Lorne had committed another heinous act that he never saw justice for. In late 2006, Lorne worked as an unqualified electrical contractor along with his brother and friend under the construction company A1 Septic Services. The trio would convince an elderly woman named Betty and her husband to pay them $30,000 up front for a $60,000 construction job. They performed minimal work before abandoning the project, leaving Betty with significant financial loss. After realizing she had been scammed, Betty reported the incident to the local district attorney. In August 2007, the district attorney demanded that Lorne repay $20,000 to Betty through an arbitrator. Lorne initially agreed, but instead fled to Nashville, Tennessee to avoid repayment and potential legal consequences. He sold his home for a fraction of its value and abandoned his truck at a mechanic in Maine. When talking to the decoy, Lorne would claim that he moved to Nashville to pursue a career as a country singer. It was now known that Lorne had a pattern of unethical behavior beyond being caught in a sting on a show about predators looking to have sex with children. Throughout the timeline of this video, members of the church would try to rectify this situation and get justice for Betty. At one point, one of the most prominent Lornographers, who went by Nathaniel Trevor, started a fundraising event to pay back Betty's $30,000. Nathaniel was the owner of the website churchofcawd.com, which used to be one of the central meeting places for Lornographers. He was also one of the more popular content creators, often analysing Lorne's interrogation footage and court documents, while in addition, Nathaniel published a novel about Lorne simply titled Lorne. He was a very respected member of the community for a while. Eventually, around 2018, Nathaniel would raise a large sum of money for Betty through a fundraiser, only to pocket it all for himself and essentially scam the community. This controversy would cause Nathaniel to launch many harassment campaigns against members of the Church of Cawd who were criticizing him. This included calling Child Protective Services on one woman in the community and filing a false report, as well as attempting to contact her place of work to get her fired. Nathaniel would also taunt another prominent Lornographer named Sam Pendleton over the death of his wife and child. Nathaniel's rampage would come to an end when someone managed to obtain Nathaniel's docs and true name. They explained to Nathaniel that they wouldn't release this information if he agreed to leave the internet forever, to which Nathaniel agreed. The Church of Cawd website and all Nathaniel's videos would be deleted and he would disappear from the community. He has surfaced a couple more times since then, once on a Martin Shkreli livestream, the convicted fraudster, as well as on the TCAP forums under the username OK Sing to Me, which is a quote from Lorne on the Perverted Justice phone calls.
Okay, sing to me.
Nathaniel played a massive part in the decline of the community. After this scam, the largest Lornographer-based shaman would pivot his content and basically never make videos about To Catch a Predator again. After 2018, the Church of Cawd would be an extremely niche community, and it would be far less centralized than its peak in the mid-2010s. During the early 2010s, it was still not uncommon for people to have no internet footprint. This was a time when boomers had yet to start consuming AI slop on Facebook and were still telling you to get your face in a book instead. For this reason, any information on Lorne or the other predators after the sting was scarce. For all intents and purposes, he was a niche figure that appeared on a show from the 2000s for literally less than 5 minutes. This made tracking down Lorne fairly difficult. This was until 2016, when a Church of Cawd member named Josh claimed to have visited Lorne's house in real life. This user would be contacted by another church member who went by Ember Inferno. Josh would give Ember Lorne's address, and Ember would send him a physical package containing a t-shirt, cookies, and her contact information, which prompted Lorne to call her. The Church of Cawd would successfully lure Lorne out of the depths of obscurity. This led to one of the community members named Ethan interviewing Lorne for the first time. This would be the first time Lorne would be seen publicly since the sting in 2007. This interview would receive a lot of criticism though, the reason being that Lorne would use the interview as a platform to deny any responsibility for his crimes. He would continue to blame NBC and perverted justice, as well as pivoting to irrelevant subjects no one cared about. This would lead to Ethan and Lorne doing a second interview to clear the record. In response to the criticism, Ethan attempted to be more stern and hold Lorne accountable. Regardless, Lorne would continue to evade any responsibility. To just walk through some of the claims he made, Lorne stated that he was never looking for underage girls online and didn't have any sexual intentions. This is despite the fact that Perverted Justice stated that Lorne was caught talking with yet another underage decoy with the username Disney Girl. In response, Lorne claims that the vigilante group fabricated this to make money off of him. Lorne would also state that he simply felt bad for Kayla and just wanted to give her someone to talk to. He goes on to say that he struggles to remember when the chat turned sexual and that he lost track of who he was talking to. When asked about his claim in the lawsuit that Kayla lured him with her, quote, female powers, Lorne said that he couldn't really explain it and that the power being used was in fact that he needed someone to care for him. Lorne continues to claim that he isn't attracted to minors despite the clear grooming in the chat log. Lorne would also repeat that he was talked into it, didn't want to do it, and that basically NBC and Perverted Justice made him commit attempted unlawful transaction with a minor. In addition to talking about his appearance on To Catch a Predator, Lorne was also asked about Betty and if he had any intention on returning the money he stole, in which case he blames the situation on his inability to say no and vaguely claims that he will pay her back one day. After surfacing online, Lorne would soon start a YouTube channel after becoming aware of his internet notoriety. In April of 2016, Lorne would begin uploading videos of him singing country music and playing the guitar. Initially, larger Lorneographers like Based Shaman were convinced the videos were fake, but as Lorne began to upload more and more videos, it became clear that this was the real Lorne Armstrong.
I thought she was 18 or older.
You fucking liar, Lee fucking Greer. You fucking liar. I thought she was 18. No, you didn't. Motherfucking McDonald's bringing Harry Potter looking bald fuck.
One notable thing about Lorne in these videos is that he was now swole. Like, the guy was jacked. Lorne would also upload videos of him working out in the backyard. The comment sections of these videos would be flooded with Lorneographers repeating back to him his own lines from the Chatlog and To Catch a Predator segment. Lorne, unaware that he was being ridiculed, began to believe that he was some kind of celebrity. In response, Lorne tried to sell t-shirts with his most infamous slogans written on them, such as "Cawd" and "Yell at me, why don't you?" However, for legal reasons, Lorne wouldn't be able to use his verbatim lines from To Catch a Predator. So instead of "Yell at me, why don't you?", Lorne would try selling t-shirts with "Don't yell at me, I'm sensitive" on it, which obviously has no connection to Catch a Predator and no one would have any reason to buy. Not only that, Lorne would be confronted with Son of Sam laws, which prohibit criminals from being able to profit from their crimes. In 2017, one of Lorne's subscribers would write a comment explaining to Lorne that he wasn't famous and that basically every single one of the subscribers on his channel were A-logging him and were following him completely ironically to make fun of him. In response, Lorne would upload a video in which he asked his audience if this was true or not. This would be Lorne's last video uploaded to YouTube, so we can safely say that Lorne got his answer.
And this is what he says. You attempted to kidnap and rape a 13-year-old and you are selling autographed shirts of yourself. You spent 5 years in prison. And now you put on bare basic cooking shows and get catfished over and over again by women you think want to be your girlfriend. Most of the people who are leaving comments to you are using your own quotes from your chat log because they think you are a joke. I'm not trying to be mean to you at all. I actually want to warn you that there are several people who are going to go at you over and over again. You keep thinking that these women who contact you want to meet you or want to be your girlfriend, and they are all fake and they are all working together and know about one another. The vast majority of people who leave messages or even buy a shirt, if any do, think you are a complete joke. It's sometimes difficult to watch, to be honest. There are also those who have already contacted you, who post your conversations on YouTube for everyone to laugh at. They have also contacted other people who got caught in these things and are harassing them and getting them to do and say very explicit things and then posting them to be laughed at. And to try to get... where am I? And to try to get people rearrested. This is no laughing matter. If you are contacted by phone, do not even stay on for a moment. I would also suggest removing your YouTube channel and just laying low. You have people who are working against you all the time, and they change their names in order to trick you into talking to you, trying to seduce you. I don't know why you fall for any of it. Driving out to meet someone, it's all fake. Don't accept the phone calls anymore. Remove your channel and move on with your life. What is going on here is not healthy. So, I guess my question to everybody in my, well, quote-unquote community is, should I be taking this person's advice and shutting down my YouTube channel, or do you guys like what I'm doing with the show and with my music and with the exercises? And
later we will also see that Lorne being on the internet making videos was actually a violation of his probation as well. After making contact with the internet, Lorne would be catfished multiple times for years on end. Lorne would believe himself to be in many different online relationships with made-up women online. A funny detail is that Lorne claimed in his confrontation with Chris Hansen to have been catfished before too. This has led many to speculate that Lorne has never had a real girlfriend, as the only women he has ever mentioned having romantic involvement with have been catfishes.
She wasn't real.
She told me she was lying to me, and she'd been lying to me all along.
Did you ever meet this woman? Did you send her money?
I sent her money. I sent her all kinds of Dale Earnhardt things.
Dale Earnhardt things. And so because you got taken advantage by a couple of women on the internet, you thought it was okay to take advantage of a 13-year-old girl on the internet?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
This has led many to speculate that Lorne has never had a real girlfriend, as the only women that he can be confirmed to have had any romantic involvement with have all been catfishes. This part of the video was easily the hardest part to make, just because Lorne has been catfished so many fucking times. It is just a clusterfuck of a timeline and really hard to lay out, and I didn't actually cover every single catfish in the story. Before bringing up the multiple catfish sagas, it is worth getting into one romantic endeavor that Lorne had. When Lorne was first released from prison in 2013, he would be scammed by a woman named Nikki. Lorne would refer to this woman as his ex-girlfriend in the future, but there was little evidence of any romantic involvement. Lorne met Nikki when she was working as a gas station clerk at a location Lorne frequently visited to purchase alcohol and cigarettes, and for whatever reason, Lorne believed that he had formed a relationship with her, which subsequently led to Lorne calling her 38 times within a time span of only a few hours, culminating in Nikki filing a harassment report and restraining order against him. This report led to Lorne's parole officer visiting Lorne's home and checking his phone. Upon arrival, they found Lorne intoxicated, which is a violation of the conditions of his parole. The parole officer deemed that Lorne's communication with Nikki was consensual, but that it was a setback for Lorne in terms of rehabilitation. What's more is that Nikki would ask Lorne if she could borrow $15,000 for a payment on a new car. Lorne would agree to pay her and just never see that money again. Seeing Lorne is a minimum wage worker with limited earning potential due to being a registered sex offender, this would cause Lorne to have to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. As mentioned before, this gave us some insight both into Lorne's financial situation, but also the financial failure of his self-published book taken abroad. When Lorne first made contact with Ember from the Church of Cawd, a user named Ramona reached out as well. Ramona presented herself as a 24-year-old African-American woman. The reason Ramona pretended to be black was to see if Lorne was a racist. However, Lorne would never say anything to indicate this. Well, that is, to Ramona. In a later catfishing saga, Lorne would say the N-word with the hard R, but moreover, Ramona told Lorne that she had seen him on To Catch a Predator. She explained that one night her mother was watching Dateline, and she called Ramona over to watch because she knew she was a fan of true crime. Upon seeing Lorne, she couldn't help but think he was mysterious and handsome. Maybe even that he looked like Justin Timberlake.
You look like, that guy, Matthew Broderick.
I've heard that before.
You do?
I've heard that before. I've heard I look like Justin Timberlake before.
Ramona then pursued the sex offender registry, looking for more information about Lorne. Ramona then attained Lorne's number and contacted him over the phone. Lorne would believe he was in a relationship with Ramona for almost a year, in which over 50 phone calls were recorded. It would turn out that most of Lorne's online initiatives, like his YouTube channel and workout videos, were due to Ramona telling him to do so. Throughout this quote-unquote relationship, Lorne would often crash out and launch into angry tirades at Ramona. This would include drunken phone calls as well as text messages. One reason for this was because during this catfishing saga, Ramona would invent a doctor character who was created to be conventionally handsome, rich, and intended to make Lorne jealous. Ramona would tell Lorne that this doctor was getting more and more involved in her life, such as coming over to her house. One day, Ramona told Lorne that she accidentally saw the doctor naked in her home, which led to one of Lorne's greatest phone call crash-outs.
Okay, Lorne.
How you saw the doctor naked? How do I know that you weren't naked when you saw the fucking doctor naked?
Okay, Lorne, as I was going to say.
Was you? Was you?
Okay, Lorne, as I was going to say.
Was you? Answer that fucking question, Ramona. Was you naked when you saw the doctor naked?
Lorne, if you are so concerned...
No. You don't fucking answer me on that fucking question, then it tells me that you was naked when you saw the fucking doctor naked.
Okay, so now...
Why don't you be honest and tell me?
Okay.
Was you naked when you saw the doctor naked?
Another arc in the Ramona catfishing saga was the therapist arc. This was a time in 2017 when Ramona would pretend to be seeking professional help. This culminated in Lorne and Ramona participating in fake therapy sessions with aforementioned pornographer Sam Pendleton, who was impersonating a therapist. This arc was controversial as it involved impersonating a medical professional and then recording and leaking a conversation that the victim assumed to be confidential. These calls would be scrubbed from the internet due to potentially violating wiretapping laws. In addition to the doctor and therapist arc, while thinking they were in a relationship with Ramona, Lorne was catfished by another character named Michelle Simpson. This catfish was deployed to try and test whether or not Lorne would be faithful to Ramona. Michelle would attempt to lure Lorne into meeting at a Dunkin' Donuts for sex. Lorne would eventually arrive at the agreed upon Dunkin' Donuts in Canaan, Maine, and naturally, no one would show up to meet him. This sent Lorne into another rage in which he accused Michelle of lying, but also of being trans for some reason. Then, the calls that were recorded with Michelle were posted online, and Ramona would confront Lorne on his infidelity.
I don't have anybody right here.
No, don't talk about the doctor. Don't talk about the doctor. Talk about the girl Michelle. What happened?
What happened? She made all kinds of, she kept making all kinds of comments. Huh?
You basically tried to set up sex with her, and what, she didn't show up?
No, she showed up. She said I didn't show up, and I didn't.
So, but you had a sexually charged discussion with someone else on the internet?
Throughout the whole Ramona saga, Lorne was completely ignorant to the fact that his whole relationship was being recorded and posted on the internet. In August of 2017, nearly a year after Lorne began his online relationship with Ramona, his parole officer would inform him that all of his phone calls were being recorded and posted to YouTube. Having realized the jig was up, the saga culminated in a final breakup call in which Ramona broke up with Lorne. On this call, Ramona would explain that it's all fake, she has a boyfriend in real life, and that she would of course never date a registered sex offender. This would greatly hurt Lorne and send him into an emotional spiral.
Oh, let me tell you, I'm not your fake doctor that has so-called millions of dollars, or this fake therapist that has so-called millions of dollars.
Or your fake fucking internet Ramona girlfriend, Lauren. This is all fake. What the hell, Lauren? How long does it take you to figure this shit out? Yes, I have a boyfriend. I've had one for years, and it's not you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I finally got the truth out of you.
I'm fucking learning to death. And you know what? I'm going to marry someone who's not a registered sex offender. I'm going to be with someone who doesn't try to fuck children.
Despite being dumped and, well, knowing that Ramona didn't really exist, Lorne would attempt to call Ramona again on a few occasions, even as late as 2018, to quote, set the record straight. Soon after the Ramona saga ended, a user claiming to be Casey Moreau would reach out to Lorne. Casey Moreau is the name of the actress who played Kayla, the decoy in the Kentucky investigation in which Lorne was arrested. This part of the story is hard to find receipts for, so much of this is alleged from Reddit threads of people who were there retelling the story. However, what is known is that the Casey catfish would reach out to Lorne, claiming to have escaped an abusive relationship with her father. Casey would be presented as a drug-addicted nymphomaniac who, upon escaping the clutches of her wealthy father, had realized that there was something about Lorne that she just couldn't resist. The catfish would explain that she and her brother were bought by her rich parents and forced to become Hollywood actors. After confessing her feelings to Lorne, Lorne would claim that he knew it was a trap. After all, he was literally just catfished for a year straight. However, he would continue to have hope and indulge Casey. Eventually, the catfishing project would collapse, and Lorne would claim that Xavier Von Erck, the founder of Perverted Justice, was the one responsible for it. And what is even more strange is that the user who was responsible for the Casey catfish claimed on the forums that this was actually true, and literally the founder of Perverted Justice came out of the woodwork to catfish Lorne. I mean, I have no idea. When this catfishing project collapsed, the user pretending to be Casey would shift gears and claim that they were actually a 31-year-old woman named Winifred Pollard, a schizophrenic, drug-addicted neo-Nazi who loved Hitler and had genuinely fallen for Lorne, and that pretending to be Casey was just a ploy to get Lorne's attention. This is my second video in a row now about people who love Hitler, but Lorne would actually continue talking and having an online relationship with Winifred, whom Lorne would continuously refer to as Winnie. The reason being that Lorne's friend's wife is named Wendy, and Lorne would indecisively refer to Winifred as Winnie in a slurred fashion. Winnie would treat Lorne horribly. She would verbally abuse him and make inappropriate comments about his family, constantly having outbursts and mental health episodes. Lorne complained about Winnie a lot, but he stays with her out of desperation. Similar to the Ramona saga, the Winnie catfish would introduce a lawyer character designed to make Lorne jealous, and like clockwork, they succeeded and Lorne freaks out. From my research, the Winnie saga would have the most amount of characters by far. It is just a complete clusterfuck and very difficult to keep up with. Some of these catfishes were literally using a voice changer, and Lorne was still fooled by it. Every single one of these characters had some like crazy detail about them, like having AIDS or being a porn star. Winnie claimed to have had an 18-year-old daughter named Rhoda. Lorne would attempt to groom her over the phone as well. And one of the weirdest developments in this story is one where Winnie was supposedly in hospital after taking too much cocaine, and in an attempt to die with dignity, Winnie would put an assisted dying pill in a brownie. Then Rhoda would believe the brownies to be pot brownies and ask Lorne on the phone if she could have one, to which he said yes. Rhoda would then literally die and Lorne would attend a funeral on the phone. Like as if that's just a thing that happens, like you go to phone funerals.
I'm right here, baby. I'm just gonna put it on mute so that I'm not rude.
Nobody can hear you. You're not on speaker. Sully.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I want you here with me.
All right, baby.
Lorne?
You're on speaker, baby.
Lorne?
Why am I on speaker?
The minister just announced that you would like to say a few words.
No, let him continue with the service.
All right. The mother would like to say something.
No, Victor, I gotta get up and talk.
But at this point, Lorne believes that he basically killed someone, and seeing Winnie claim to be 31, this would mean that Winnie was only 13 years old when she gave birth. This could be a reference to Kayla being 13 when Lorne was arrested in the sting. After Winnie, Lorne would get catfished again by a woman claiming to be Winnie's sister, Debbie. Debbie would get Lorne to trauma dump and read the Holy Lornography, aka his Chatlog from the Dateline sting, and in these calls, it seems like Debbie was actually sympathetic and trying to provide emotional support for Lorne. However, Lorne makes it clear that he just thinks he can hit on her and get a new fake girlfriend. The catfish runs the same old routine of inventing a male rival for Lorne to get jealous about, which obviously works. The Debbie saga would come to an end when Lorne would go back to jail for violating his parole in 2019. As mentioned earlier, Lorne's use of the internet, in addition to failing to install the web monitoring software, violated the terms of his parole, while also Lorne had constantly failed to pass sex offender classes since his release due to being unable to take responsibility for his crime. Throughout all of the catfishing saga, Lorne's troubles with alcohol were very apparent, him being inebriated on many of the calls. This is when Lorne's alcohol consumption is heavily restricted on the terms of his parole. For all of these reasons, Lorne would go back to prison for 6 months before being released on lifetime probation again. Upon getting out of jail, Lorne would be catfished at least 4 more times. One catfished was named Jamie Amy and was an ex-porn star and alcoholic. This career path was chosen because the catfishers thought it would make Lorne the most jealous. The worst detail of the Jamie catfish is that the catfishers, and I can't really elaborate on this too much because the video will get age restricted, but the catfishers claimed to dip a giant 12-inch in tuna and garbage juice before sending it to Lorne. Jamie told Lorne that the fluids on the were from her, and this culminated in Lorne sending pics of him on this 12-inch monstrosity, and you can find these photos very easily online. During Jamie and Lorne's relationship, Chris Hansen had contacted Lorne to ask about an interview. Lorne requested that the interview would have to be on his terms, which included some kind of pay-per-view event where Lorne would be paid for his time. Because Chris wouldn't agree to this, Lorne declined, but he asked Chris to send his email to Casey Moreau so he could apologize. Then, Lorne would receive an email from someone claiming to be Casey Moreau. Obviously, this wasn't the real Casey and was another catfish ran by a man who goes by the username Blue Boy. Lorne and the catfish would have a long conversation via email that was posted to YouTube. The video was almost an hour and a half long. During the conversation, Lorne would complain about his failing relationship with Jamie, and similar to Kayla, the perverted justice decoy in Lorne's chatlog, Casey gives very short and brief responses. At every point in the chat when Lorne suggests he likes something, Casey responds saying she doesn't like it. Casey literally just shuts Lorne down at every instance, but despite this, Lorne perseveres.
Oh yeah, I forgot to answer one of your questions. I seen you dancing some years back, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to be able to dance as well as you do.
That is really weird. You haven't even met me, so I don't know how you think you know those things about me.
Casey, are you forgetting that I sat in the chair across from you at the Sting House? As for your dancing, I already told you about seeing you on a YouTube video I watched about 5 years ago with a group of other dancers, and I barely recognized you because you had curly hair.
Does it still sound weird? Lol.
You think you can tell all that about me because you sat across from me for 5 minutes 14 years ago? Still seems pretty weird. I was playing a character.
It was 5 minutes for you. You have no idea how many times I had to replay that whole thing over and over and over in my head, and then again from the video. You did a good job acting, but my head was so messed up at the time that I couldn't see past my nose. The more I played it over in my head, the more I realized the things I should have been able to see long before I went to the house. I was not even close to my right frame of mind. So whatever you do, don't take any offense to what I've said. It was not meant to be offensive. I'm going to bed. Thinking about that whole thing is just really a depressing thing for me, and it really sucks that is the way you first met me. If you don't mind from now on, I would like to steer away from anything about that show and get to know each other for who we are now. Please. Good morning, beautiful lady. I'll find out today if I got the job I interviewed for on Saturday. Keep your fingers crossed for me.
Okay.
And so, like clockwork, it only takes a few emails for Lorne to introduce the subject of dating and states that it's really cool she is talking to him. And this is despite Lorne believing that he has a girlfriend. In general, very early on in the exchange, Lorne is down bad as hell and is sending videos of his dog, double and triple sending emails with no response, calling her beautiful constantly. Lorne even remarks at how her responses are so short in his emails. Lorne would continue to ramp up his game and begin to hit on her more and more aggressively, despite Casey continuing to insist that they don't even know each other. Casey would constantly shut down Lorne's advances, such as correcting Lorne's spelling without acknowledging what he just said. During this conversation, Lorne also continues to deny any accountability for his crime in 2007. He states that on the night of his arrest, he was planning to go out drinking with his friends, but then at the last minute decided to go to the Sting House. This is despite the hundreds of pages of Lorne organizing to meet up and fantasizing about what he would do to the decoy. One of the things to come out of Lorne's email exchange is a clip of him dancing for Kayla. After the email exchange, Lorne and Casey would begin a text conversation. It has also been uploaded to YouTube in multiple parts and is literally hours long as well. In these texts, Lorne really becomes overly attached. He is sending multiple messages back to back about how interested and connected he is to the catfish, to which she replies with cold or brief messages. Throughout this time, Lorne has propositioned Casey multiple times and been rejected, but he refuses to lose hope. In addition to the text conversation, there are over 90 phone calls recorded between Casey and Lorne. Because Casey is actually a man who goes by the username Blue Boy, Lorne is talking to a man using a voice changer in the phone calls, something he has done many times throughout the different catfishing sagas and never thought the wiser. There is a moment in the calls when Lorne is explaining his relationship situation and the past catfishes, and it's funny to hear him talk about this network of deranged women who he believes were in love with him. He also explains to Casey how he was already catfished for a year by someone pretending to be her. During the Blue Boy Casey catfishing saga, Roy Armstrong, Lorne's real-life brother, attempted to warn Lorne that Casey was not real. Lorne, deeply invested in this fabricated relationship, dismissed Roy's warnings, trusting Casey's denials. Later on the phone, a drunk Lorne would refer to one of Roy's friends, an African-American woman, as an African bitch and hard R N-word. Casey would routinely play this audio to Lorne on the phone and scorn him for being racist.
He's busy talking to his African bitch.
One of the most significant developments of this Casey catfishing saga is that Lorne was still dating another catfish named Jamie throughout the duration of his chats with Casey. Towards the end of their communication, Lorne would enter a three-way relationship with both Casey and Jamie, a throuple. Lorne would then discover that Jamie was a catfish, which caused Casey to panic. In response, Casey told Lorne that she had been blackmailed by Jamie into faking a relationship with him, but that she still wanted to talk and really get to know Lorne. Lorne would keep propositioning her with a relationship and to meet in person. He would also become increasingly frustrated with Casey not coming out to see him in Maine, while also Lorne would see the video uploaded of him dancing.
You got the right stuff, baby. Love the way you turn me on. You got the right stuff, baby. You're the reason why I sing this song. All that I wanted was you. Oh girl, you're so right. All that I needed was you. You made me feel. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. You got the right stuff, baby. Now you get your dance and I want my picture.
Which led to him realizing he had been catfished yet again, resulting in Lorne sending a text message to Blue Boy threatening to take legal action, marking the end of the Casey catfishing operation. Blue Boy is a significant figure in the Church of Cawd, the reason being that his catfishing saga was arguably the most successful as far as extracting information from Lorne. His communication with Lorne was extremely patient and was more focused on enticing Lorne to open up about his life rather than just milk him for lols. One piece of information that Blue Boy's Casey operation revealed is that Lorne had once been infatuated with a woman named Paula. Paula was a waitress at a bar who Lorne caught feelings for, leading to him showing up at her place of work every time she was working for 6 months straight. Lorne would eventually show up to her home uninvited, only to be confronted by her boyfriend. This led many members of the Church of Cawd to speculate that Lorne had followed her home and was stalking. Just like in the case of Nikki, the gas station clerk who scammed him, many people believe Lorne to interpret the politeness of hospitality workers as flirting, and that this is enough to start his infatuation and fixation on them. There has always been controversy surrounding the catfishing sagas. Even if Lorne is a sex offender, some community members argue that deliberately exposing his personal information through recording and leaking his phone calls is a step too far. This was especially true in the case of the therapy calls in which Lorne believed he had client confidentiality. In addition, members of the community attempted to catfish Lorne's brother, who had nothing to do with Lorne's crimes. One of the main orchestrators of the catfishing operations was the aforementioned user Ember Inferno. If Ember wasn't playing the catfish herself, she was aiding other catfishers by spending a lot of time talking to Lorne in order to gain his trust. This culminated in Ember routinely visiting Lorne in person and basically forming a bizarre relationship with Lorne where she would organize catfishing projects while having a strange sort of friendship with him in person. Ember is a controversial figure. She would invest so much time in Lorne that she would begin to neglect her own family. This led to her husband leaving her and taking custody of their child, as well as her family staging an intervention. Ember was very possessive of Lorne. Other members of the community tried to start their own catfishing operations or contact Lorne, and in response, Ember would dox them. This would fracture the Church of Cawd, culminating in Ember's silent departure from the internet. Nonetheless, one of the topics of speculation that fascinates Lornographers is why and how Lorne kept falling for these catfishing schemes. It is easy to believe that Lorne is just this stupid, but many Lornographers gravitate to the theory that Lorne is simply desperate. Maybe on some level, he knows that he is likely being catfished at every point, but being an isolated, emotionally deprived, registered sex offender in rural Maine, he takes any chance that he can get to experience intimacy. In every catfishing project, the catfish would constantly quote Lorne's own lines from his Chatlog or Dateline appearances, but Lorne would never pick up on it. This could be evidence for either hypothesis, whether Lorne is too oblivious to realize, or he is choosing to ignore it and hold on to the hope that he is talking to a real-life girl. Personally, one of my favorite details from the catfishing sagas is that Lorne would start wearing an earpiece shortly after the catfishing began, presumably so he could easily talk to his fictional girlfriends on the phone. This earpiece was seemingly glued to his head, as he would never take it off. Whenever Lorne is spotted in public, he is wearing this earpiece. Even when Lorne was visited by Ember, you can see he is still wearing it. It has become a part of his appearance now, just like the cap and faded t-shirt. In 2021, Lorne would have a yard sale. Lorne would sell all sorts of personal items outside of his trailer home in Maine. Because Lorne's address is public information available through the Maine Sex Offender Registry, visitors from the Church of Cawd would visit the yard sale and film the event. In these videos, several people off camera can be heard quoting lines from Lorne's Chatlog and To Catch a Predator appearance directly to him. Like usual, Lorne is completely oblivious to the fact that he is having his own words quoted back to him.
And the white stuff comes out.
Yep. Press the trigger.
Lorne's yard sales would become an annual event as a part of a 10-mile yard sale in Lorne's neighbourhood. This would lead members of the Church of Cawd to make a, quote, pilgrimage to see Lorne in the flesh every year. Despite the incessant quoting of the Lorneography, these interactions appear civil, and Lorne seems happy to converse with the Church of Cawd members, even about details related to Lorneography or the Church of Cawd. In the 2020s, many Lorneographers have become fixated on Lorne's trailer home, referring to it as the Trailer of Failure. On Google Maps, his home is marked as the Church of Cawd, while also Lorneographers have put up street signs in the area marked Church of Cawd to give directions to the trailer. Something notable about the Trailer of Failure is that it exists in a state of severe disrepair. Part of the roof is collapsed and there is debris strewn about. Lorne has claimed that he is doing repairs to his home. However, years have passed with his trailer existing in complete disarray with little evidence of any progress on the renovation. Today, Lorne Armstrong lives in rural Maine, still on probation and still on the sex offender registry. Nearly 2 decades after his arrest, he remains unable to complete his court-mandated sex offender treatment program, reportedly because he refuses to take accountability and insists he was set up by NBC. Despite being given multiple chances, Lorne remains stuck in a cycle of delusion, denial, and self-sabotage, and at any moment he risks going back to prison for violating his probation. For all the lawsuits, the catfishing, and the mockery he's attracted online, the most tragic and telling detail is this: Lorne Armstrong is still the exact same person who walked into that sting house in 2007. For this same reason, the cycle never ends. Any day now, another catfishing arc will begin, and just like all the times before, he'll fall for it, because Lorne Armstrong doesn't learn and is incapable of change. Lorne is a criminal who shows a pattern of delinquent behavior, but unlike other criminals, Lorne has found himself in some bizarre Greek underworld-style punishment, constantly being tantalized, humiliated, and exposed publicly. This has been the story of Lorne Armstrong. Hey guys, if you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed this content and you want to keep seeing me make videos, you can support me via Patreon, and you can also go and check out my Substack. My Substack is a lot less lowbrow, none of it is paywalled, but if you like, there is a subscription option for you to support. Thanks for watching everybody, catch you next time.